Hello, Grizzlies. Welcome back to another episode of Grizzly True Crime. My name is Gisela K, and today this is a huge update happening in the Moab murders case. If you haven't heard about it, Kylen and Crystal, those are the two victims we're talking about. I'm just quickly going to share the screen because I don't want to miss out on this update here. So just hold on one second. I gotta get some tissue. Okay, they're busy testing their audio as well. Yes, surprise stream. Okay, so hold on. While we wait for that, this was the last update we had. So let me just quickly read you this, where they say suspect named in double homicide of newlywed couple found dead near Utah campground. So if you were here in the beginning days of my channel, and I was covering the Gabby Petito case, and then of course the Moab murders as well, which happened around the same time. The real Gonzo, it is such an honor to see you here. You say, we just love you. This is one near and dear to me. Oh, man. Thank you so much for being here. So they say, sorry, I just want to keep monitoring here. Okay. So the suspect was named, and this article is from May. I mean, we haven't had updates since then, really. The Grand County Sheriff's Office has named a suspect in the murders of a newlywed couple who was found dead near a campsite in Moab, Utah, around the same time that Gabby Petito had gone missing. The Grand County Sheriff's Office has identified Adam Pinkowitz as a suspect in the double homicide of Kylen Schulte and Crystal Beck Turner. We've also had Crystal's family on the show before, so if you missed out on all that, there is a playlist for this case. So don't worry if you're here and you're like, what is this? Don't worry, you can catch up there. Adam Pinkowitz was a former employee at the McDonald's that Crystal worked at, located in Moab, Utah. The news release continued, noting that Pinkowitz was identified at the time as one of many persons of interest being investigated by the GCSO. And the GCSO made numerous attempts to locate and interview him. Through continued analysis and collection of evidence, the GCSO had learned that the suspect was in the LaSalle and Moab, the LaSalle's right, the mountain, and Moab at the time of the murders, and had left the state of Utah shortly after the homicide, and then later he took his own life. The GCSO conducted numerous interviews and recently received information that prior to taking his own life, he'd actually told another party that he had killed 2 women in Utah and provided specific details that were known only to investigators, police wrote, adding that the investigation is still ongoing and the case is not yet closed. So today is apparently news which will help to close the case. I'm just going to monitor you quickly again. Yeah, so this is the stream, the update that's happening.
The presentation, so
Here we go.
we'll allow for some questions. If you would like to ask a question, you're going to need to be on Zoom and use the raise your hand option. You cannot ask questions if you are on YouTube. Did I get that right?
This is the format. Sorry, guys.
Once again, I just want to thank my staff. I want to thank everybody. This has been a long time coming. I want to thank the County Attorney's Office, Christina Sloan, for all her help and cooperation in this. I guess this time I'll turn it over to Carrie and Nate.
I hope you guys can hear. Tell me if you can't, if I must boost it. Right now the sound is off. This is the format that they're presenting it in. Thank you so much to the Grizzlies who sent me this. I hope there'll be some closure in the case today. To everyone asking, yes, the dude he did take his own life, but today they're providing an update, which is probably after further investigation and maybe DNA, all that kind of stuff. They might be making some confirmations. I'm here with you, reacting live to it. I don't know exactly what they're announcing today, but let's have a look at it together. I don't hear a thing. The sound is not on right now.
There we go.
Okay. Let's see if this goes over.
Investigator Nate Whitney with the Grand County Sheriff's Office. I was lead investigator on this case. As you can tell, my voice is kind of going out, so Detective Rigby's going to be doing most of the talking.
So this is the case of the double homicide that occurred in the Grand County. The incident date is going to be August 14th of 2021. So as far as the assisting agencies, so the main assisting agencies in this was the Unified Police Department. I'm Detective Carrie Rigby. I'm with the Violent Crimes Unit there. Liaison Agent Rachel Butler has been a huge help also with the FBI. So one of our victims, Kylen Schulte, her wife was Crystal Turner, and she was reported missing on August 16th, 2021. She was found deceased on August 18th, 2021 at 11:23 a.m. Crystal Turner, her wife was Kylen. She worked at McDonald's in Moab. She was reported missing on August 16th. Her wife, she was found deceased on August 18th at 11:23 as well. So as far as their relationship goes, they met in Moab in 2019. They were married in Arkansas on April 20th, 2021. Their friends described them as being devoted to each other. They lived what they call the van life and camped, or they stayed in their van around the area, and they did not have a permanent residence. They also plan on returning to church together. So days prior to the homicide, on August 12th at 5:30, Kylen and Crystal both worked their normal shifts and came down from the campground that they had been staying in. They were in the area, went and took a shower, and at 18:22, Kylen and Crystal's vehicle can be seen on surveillance returning to their campsite. At the time that they returned to their campsite, they have their first interaction with what they describe as being a creepy camper. Kylen and Crystal both reported the creepy camper and said that he pulled it into the campsite and did what they described as a howl, and Crystal returned the howl. Kylen and Crystal both stated that they decided to the creepy camper decided to camp next to them and put his stuff really uncomfortably close to their campground. Kylen and Crystal both stayed in a hammock that night, and while they were laying in the hammock, they saw the guy creeping around their campground. They never confronted him, never said anything, and there was nothing ever said to him about it. On August 13th, Kylen and Crystal reported the creepy camper left the campground. And just before they were leaving the campground to go meet up with some friends in Moab, they said that the creepy camper returned back to the campground and started unpacking groceries and taking them out of its trunk. Kylen and Crystal both described the creepy camper as being a man with a beard and no shirt. At 17:53, Kylen and Crystal's vehicle can be seen driving down the canyon into Moab. At 17:10, so 7 p.m., they arrived at the get-together with their friends. There was no conflicts that night. There was no issues. They were just hanging out with friends. At 8:45, they left the get-together, and they made a comment that if they don't show up to work, come looking for them. Kind of joked about it. There wasn't anything really serious in their statements being said, and friends were concerned, but not super worried about it. At 9 p.m., they went and hung out with another friend at their house, and they went for a drive and continued to kind of tell this friend about the creepy camper. But again, they didn't seem too worried about the creepy camper, and they wanted to return back up to the campground so they could retrieve the rabbit that they had with them. So the day of the homicide at 12:30, they left the friend's house from Moab, and they drove up. So about estimated time would have been about 1:15 that they would have returned to the campground. At 11:48, shots and screams were heard on surveillance in the nearby area. Now, we do have just a prior warning. Some of these pictures and some of the things that you are going to hear from here on out may not be something that you're comfortable with. The next one, you will be able to hear gunshots, you may be able to hear screaming like as previously described. And there are some images that, while they're not obviously terrible images, it could have blood on them. And so if you guys get squeamish, please go ahead and discontinue during that time. So again, those shots that you just heard, while they are faint, and that you can just hear the shots being fired, that was determined the time that the homicide occurred, and that would have been August 14th at 11:48. So as far as the days after the homicide, obviously the scene was not initially first located. So at 5:30 on the 15th, Crystal was supposed to show up to work at McDonald's, but she didn't show up. Friends that worked with her assumed that because they were going to start returning to church, that this was something that they maybe just hadn't arranged. She just took the day off so that she could go back to church. So the coworker reached out to her on Facebook, but the messages went out but never were responded to or seen. On the 16th, Crystal again doesn't show up to work at 5:30 in the morning. And on the same day, Kylen doesn't show up to her job. So more messages were sent from friends, from coworkers, and nobody responded back. So a coworker spoke to their management at McDonald's, and it was decided to report both of them missing to police. So at 203 Moab Police Department took the report for the two missing persons. August 17th, family made pleas on Facebook to help find Crystal and Kylen. On August 18th, a family friend saw those pleas on Facebook and ended up responding out and trying to help find any kind of car or tent or anything that she could recognize as being belonging to Kylen and Crystal. And at 11:23, their campsite was found, and that family friend made calls to the sheriff's department reporting it. 3 calls were made by that caller. So again, these are just some scene photographs. While they are not obviously super terrible, we're not going to show anything too extreme. Just be prepared for those. So this is their campsite, how it was found when the sheriff's department arrived. You can see their car, you can see the tent, and then just kind of the general setup of how that scene was. This is just an overview, kind of give you an idea of how it's not very close to anything. It's far out from a lot of things. There is, a couple cabins nearby, but for the most part, it's just camping. So in this area, and I apologize for those on YouTube, you can't really see a whole ton. Trying to point out that there is 2 trees right here, and that's where this all where they were all camped out. So it's away from the road, it was off the road, difficult to see. Not a lot of people in that area. So these were some bullets that were recovered during the autopsies of the girls. And these, again, like I was saying, just be cautious of what they are. So the first one is a full metal jacket bullet. The other 3 pictures are what we call a critical defense round. So it has a little plastic piece, like a red plastic piece. So while what you're looking at, it's red, that's not blood, that is actually just a plastic piece that is part of a bullet. Very unusual in any kind of situation. For as many homicides as I've done, this was definitely something that I had not seen before in a homicide. So that definitely caught my interest. So some of the key points of the investigation that obviously helped in this situation were the numerous interviews that were conducted. Investigator Whitney the sheriff's department, they all did a ton of interviews regarding this. They received hundreds of tips from citizens. 44 search warrants and probably plus more than that, but estimated 44 search warrants were written on this case. And then some of the main information that was gathered on this case was just some of the state and federal crime labs assistant for information. So like what we had already just showed you, the identification of the bullets used in the homicide. So the critical defense rounds, they were identified as Hornady critical defense rounds. And then they also pinpointed some vehicles coming and going from surveillance that was in that area. So the crime labs actually helped us, and they slowed down some of those videos. They actually were able to send some frozen screenshots, I guess, and helped us show us which ones were coming after the homicide occurred. Also the audio enhancement, which you guys have already heard, just of the shots being fired, so that we could hear if there were how many shots were being fired and what we were looking for there. And then the identification of any possible weapons that were used on that scene. So they were able to ID the most likely used gun on that scene. So possible theories in this homicide, and obviously these are just a few of them. Maybe some of more of the prominent ones were the family conflicts that the girls may have had, a prior stalker from any of the girls, financial conflicts, drugs, the Brian Landry theory, hunters on the mountain, and arguments with a threatening coworker and the creepy camper. The only two we were unable to clear out from all of that list there were the last two. So the argument with the threatening coworker and the creepy camper were the only ones that we were not able to eliminate. And again, some of the key evidence that came into play from the state crime lab and from the interviews that were done. The vehicle seen leaving after the homicide, one of the vehicles that came into focus was a Toyota Yaris that left at 12:54. The red tipped ammo, the Hornady critical defense round, like I was saying, it's rare that those are used. A man camping in the area and has a beard, that was one that we couldn't locate. And then a list of possible used guns. And that was listed as being a Glock 17 or 19. And it was a 9mm handgun that was likely to be used. So this is one of the screenshots of the vehicle leaving at 12:54. It was a Toyota Yaris. And the reason that became a focus of the investigation was because it was a vehicle that did not fit the typical vehicles that were coming and going. As far as all the other vehicles that were seen coming and going during that time, for the most part, it was SUVs, it was trucks, it was a camper trailer, it was, the typical things you'd see up in the mountains. This one was a Toyota Yaris, something that that you don't see every day. It's not something you typically take camping. It was something that obviously stuck out to investigators. This is Adam Kinkowitz. I apologize if I say that name incorrectly. He was employed with McDonald's. He also lived the van life. He had conflict with workers at McDonald's and became threatening and hostile. He never returned to work after the homicide, never picked up his last check, and he was not responding to law enforcement when they were trying to contact him. So as far as arguments that Adam had with employees at McDonald's, on August 8th, prior to the homicide, Adam became irate at a McDonald's night manager because they were telling him he needed to go faster. Adam got into this manager space and started making comments and making derogatory comments towards her, specifically about her sexuality. Adam was pacing around, punching his fist to his hand. Other coworkers reported that he said he should, quote, take her outside and kick her ass. The night manager left the store because they did feel like it was going to be an issue and that Adam would do something to him. Another manager came in to help de-escalate the situation and try to work that situation out. And Adam became threatening towards her, got into her space, like wouldn't really leave her alone, became threatening towards her and started pushing towards her and wouldn't move away when he was asked. So eventually Adam was told he needed to clock out and he needed to leave because he wouldn't calm down and he wasn't following the directions that they were giving him. So the conflict with Crystal and Adam, on August 7th or 8th, Adam had seen Crystal walk behind the McDonald's counter. So she started making sandwiches for herself and Kylen, which was a normal practice at that time. Crystal was not in uniform and was calling out to Kylen, asking her what kind of sandwiches she wanted and called her baby. Adam was obviously upset that Crystal was back behind the counter and asked another employee if she can do that. The employee said it was apparent that he was upset that it was Crystal that was behind the counter and that she was making sandwiches for her girlfriend rather than just making food in general. So no one can confirm Adam ever confronted Crystal or ever said anything to her, and it is not believed that there was ever an argument between those two specifically. Crystal and Adam did not work the same shifts, so they never had any kind of interactions together. They never crossed paths for the most part. They usually worked opposite shifts of each other. So the only time Crystal may have ever interacted with Adam would have been coming in on her time off to make sandwiches, get ice, things like that. Also during this time, masks were worn during work shifts. It was a requirement by McDonald's. And so there's a good chance that if they did see each other or if Crystal saw Adam, she was not going to recognize him. Adam never returned to get his last paycheck once again, even after the homicide, just after the homicide occurred. So the attempted contact with Adam, eventually Grand County investigators did respond out to another state to try to make contact with Adam for the addresses that they had on file. Adam was not at the listed address and it was found to be old addresses. However, it was located, registration for that vehicle was located, and it was found that Adam owned a 2007 Toyota Yaris, which was sold in Waterloo, Iowa in December of 2021. And that's a photograph of the Yaris next to it. That is not Adam in the Yaris, just so you guys are aware. So investigators made contact with Waterloo Police Department. It was found that on September 24th, it was reported Adam had committed suicide. So Adam had actually shot and killed himself in a motel out in Waterloo, Iowa, using a revolver to commit suicide, and he had used Hornady special critical defense rounds. And that's a photograph of those rounds. In the suicide note, Waterloo photographed one suicide note which mentioned being terminated for not working fast enough and that he was terminated by lefty liberal bosses. Adam also mentioned in the note that he had a significant other. It should be noted that Adam's family has been very cooperative with law enforcement and they simply seek the same answers that everybody else does. So they have been very helpful through this. So the Waterloo suicide investigation, after determining Adam's death was a suicide, all of his property was released to his family. Not much of it was actually released. So the family did not take all of his property. And unfortunately, a lot of it was actually thrown away when they relinquished his car. So when they did go and respond out to Waterloo, luckily enough, the family did take 3 cell phones, some paperwork, some safety deposit keys, but the Yaris itself was actually relinquished to a tow company, and everything inside that car was eventually thrown away by the tow company. Prior to it being relinquished, the family did find a bag full of bullets in the car, and they were not documented to be specific of what kind or anything like that. They were just destroyed by the agency out there. Adam's family chose to have his remains cremated at that time. Some of the paperwork that was recovered in Adam's vehicle was a purchase for a gun from 2019. The family provided a copy of the purchase's receipt, and it was found that the purchase of the gun was for a Glock 19 9mm handgun. It also had a purchase for a Hornady 9mm ammo. Now, contacting the company that actually sold him the gun, they said they could not confirm whether or not it was going to be hollow point or if it was critical defense rounds, but they can confirm it was a specialty round. So it would be either a hollow point or it would be that critical defense round. But because of the total, that's how they were able to determine that part. The Remington 9mm ammo was also purchased at that time, which could also match up with the full metal jacket round that was also found during the autopsies. So again, just to point out some of the obvious, the Glock 19 was one of the guns that was labeled as from the state crime lab as being the most likely used gun in the homicide. So as far as Adam's family dynamic, Adam wasn't really on speaking terms with his family. His family did assist him with hotels off and on while he was kind of living that van life. So if it became a necessity, family would try to help him out. And they actually assisted him with the last 2 weeks prior to his suicide while he was out in Waterloo. When he got out to Waterloo, the family was under the impression he was doing well and that he was happy. They said just prior to leaving for Waterloo, they actually received a weird message that they were concerned about. And they had said that they received the message on August 13th at 1:50, and it was a goodbye email saying goodbye to his family. A warrant was written for a messaging app for the stuff that was obviously found on Adam's phone, and conversations with the significant other were found. So there were no conversations about the shooting or murders at all. And it was noted that any conversations during the 14th and the 16th were completely non-existent. There was absolutely no communication on his phone. There was nothing on any kind of social media, anything on the messaging app, nothing during the 14th and 16th. So on the 16th, Adam's phone goes live again using a local Wi-Fi at a business nearby. So the text now does also reveal that on August 24th, he leaves for Waterloo, Iowa to go and be with his significant other. The conversations also reveal that during the time that he is out in Waterloo, that the relationship appears to kind of be up and down just prior to his suicide. So the cell phone downloads, once we were able to actually get into them, obviously his family were nice enough to hand those over to us and let us use those. They deleted most of the, he deleted most of them. So Adam deleted most of the content on those phones on August 26th and downloaded an encryption app in an attempt to delete anything else from there. So he deleted all photographs of himself out in Moab. Whether it was just something of him sitting there, it didn't really matter. He deleted them. And it was during that same time period that he deleted it. It was after the homicide. We also located some memos and screenshots inside his phone. Some of those memos and things that he was looking at showed extreme signs of racism. And the notes showed huge signs of problems with anger. So we also located an encrypted email that we were unable to get into just because of the time passed. We found notes in his phone that actually mentioned the area of the homicide occurred, but it was documented months prior. So he was familiar with that area and he had been in that area to camp, but it was just months prior that he had been documenting those. The notes talked about inside his phone, there were also notes and memos about raping and killing other people and how it was a constant thought in his mind. He also deleted and got rid of any of his Google history and his Google accounts and Facebook accounts just prior to his suicide. So these are just some screenshots from his phone. So these are just some like articles he had screenshot about the bullets that we were actually looking into, and then also the same gun that we were also investigating. So this is the same timeline that we just went through with Kylen and Crystal. The stuff in red is actually going to be Adam's timeline. So I'm not going to reiterate the same things of what Kylen and Crystal were doing. I'm just going to show you where Adam kind of fits in there and point out the main key point. So on the 12th, Adam goes and takes a shower and responds about a text. So nothing huge on that one, but just documenting where he was. On the 13th, Crystal and Kylen reported that the creepy camper left the campground. So at 9:30, Adam shows that he went showered at a local business. And he actually started asking that day about getting a refund on his season pass. At 12:51, Adam calls that same business and he's very persistent about trying to get a refund. At 13:06, Adam calls McDonald's. And then 13:15, Adam calls about the refund again. At 13:50 is when Adam sends the goodbye email to his family that reads, "Goodbye, brother." At 13:57, Adam goes to the local market around here and actually spends just under $50 for groceries. At 2:04, Adam purchases $24 in gasoline. And then at 15:34, a black Toyota Yaris is seen driving up towards the campsite. Kylen and Crystal said just before leaving, which would have been at 5:53 is when they left. They said that the creepy camper showed up to their campsite and was taking groceries out of the car. So again, 8/13, 2021, 3:34, that's a picture of a vehicle that was headed up there. That is the vehicle in the Unified Police Department evidence lot. And then the one just on the right is going to be the same vehicle leaving just after the homicide. So on August 14th, again, shots were fired at 11:48. The Toyota Yaris is seen going down the canyon at 12:54. At 13:32, Adam showers at a local business. And at 14:17, Adam purchases more gasoline. At 14:25, Adam purchases $10 in groceries. And then he goes dark. So on the 15th, Adam doesn't have any kind of response, doesn't have anything on his phone, has no location, nothing on his phone. And on the 16th, when posts are going up about the girls, Adam signs on to the Wi-Fi, gets more gasoline. He notes the Mill Creek camping, which is local around here. And then he also starts searching Telluride, Colorado businesses. On the 17th, I apologize. 17th is when the posts go up. Adam makes phone calls to a studio in Telluride and then starts making calls to a center in Telluride, and is believed to actually be out there with purchases he's made. On the 18th, Adam receives a text message from Moab and he turns it down because he stated he had another job, which he did not. So furthering after that, Adam on the 20th is in Telluride, Colorado. On the 24th, he is contacting his significant other and starts to communicate with him about going out to Waterloo, Iowa. His significant other and him had not had communication for several months. So he had just randomly texted him and started asking if he could come out there and stay with him. On the 27th, Adam arrives in Waterloo. And on the 3rd, family paid for a week at a motel. On the 17th, Adam's relationship starts changing with his significant other. Things started changing. He wasn't getting the same responses back. Things were very short. He kept apologizing, asking for answers. And on the 18th is when he again sends goodbye and then asks to see a significant other one last time. On the 23rd, Adam receives a rejection from a job that he had put in for out in Waterloo. And on the 24th, they receive a call from the motel about Adam's death. So we were able to locate the significant other and we were able to go and talk to him. He was very forthcoming. We had already cleared him and knew that he was not in the area. But once we started talking to him, initially his very first thing was that he knew why we were there. When we asked why he thought we were there, his statement was because Adam had killed 2 people in Utah. The SO said Adam had told him that he had killed the 2 people and that they were women. He said that Adam shot the women while they were in the tent, and that Adam had thrown the gun that he had used to shoot him somewhere, but he wasn't sure of where he had thrown it. He said that he also shot one of the women because shot them both because one of the women that was there was a woman that he worked with, and he didn't like her because she was bossy. Adam again said that he shot the women inside the tent. The significant other tried to look up the case while he was with Adam, and Adam stopped him and begged him not to look it up. The significant other said he did not do anything about it because he was scared of Adam. He said he didn't know what he would do to him if he did something about it. When we asked why he hadn't called anything like that after Adam died, he said he was unaware Adam was dead. And he said he didn't know he committed suicide and he thought that Adam had simply left the area. He said that the reason Adam had told him was because there was a conflict as to why Adam wouldn't go and get a job while he was out in Waterloo. He said that when it came up, he said, why won't you just work? Basically, it was because he was worried that investigators would find him and that we would be able to locate him that way. So some of the information that we were able to verify from the significant other statement, obviously there was some information that he gave us that was not released, which is what we have talked about. So the women were not found inside of the tent. The women were shot inside of the tent and moved. That was only known to law enforcement. Nobody else was aware of that. That was something that was kept quiet. And there was only one way that they would have known that the women were killed inside the tent, is if they were there. The significant other, obviously, we had already verified was not in Utah at the time. So we were very, very clear to know the only way they would have gotten that information would have been from Adam. So a little bit more of the investigation from his phone. So again, he had looked up some of the areas there. He also had the threats on his phone. This is a screenshot from one of the memos on his phone, which is a threat on 3/18/21. Says, I'm afraid I have an ongoing impulse in me to kill or rape people. I overworked myself, and that's caused me to feel bad and think negative, evil thoughts. And this doesn't define me or say who I am. And I can say it another way redundantly if I wish. I'm a free person. So this is just part of that, but he continues on to talk about how he has repeated thoughts about killing people and how he's worried he's going to follow through with it. And while he's not worried about the other people, basically he's worried about being judged for it. So he's also very, he makes several statements that are very racist and threatening to others in the memos. He is also very paranoid in some things. He would track license plates for unknown reasons. He would start tracking, different people that he had seen. He would start describing incidents that he had of why people were threatening to him or demasculating him. And these were all memos that were kept on his phone. After we released the initial information of Adam being a suspect in the homicide, we received a tip from people who had been out here, out camping around March, and said that they had been on a family camping trip, and a man fitting the same description and having the same name of Adam and Pinkowitz of being the last name had been in that area. They said that while he had thought everybody had left, they found him scavenging coolers in their camp area. They invited him over and had him stay for dinner, but then he continued to stay around the campground, and that he overstayed his welcome. And then when they had asked him, okay, it's time for you to go, he became aggressive when he was asked to leave. So this is a photograph of that campground showing the Yaris in the background. And that being Adam sitting in between the tent and the car. So just spinning the very things Kylen and Crystal described to their friends. So a lot of just the information, and I'm sure there's going to be lots of questions. So how do you want to do that?
Just go ahead and we'll open it up to investigators. People, you guys got any questions that are coming in?
So if there's any questions online, please just raise your hand via the Zoom app. We'll try and get to you as we can. Questions are going to be limited to however long the sheriff decides he's going to keep going. So we'll try and get to you, but just be patient.
I think it would be helpful to talk about other potential suspects and eliminating the process, going through to eliminate those.
Yeah, for sure. So a lot of them, obviously, we were able to eliminate with like Google timelines or CDRs on their cell phones, or just simple, witness testimonies. There was a lot of those as well. A good portion of them came from, I think probably the witnesses seeing them elsewhere, or they were able to be clarified. The bigger ones that I know were questions with Brian Landry. We had talked to them and we were actually able to clear him because he was on his way up to see, from what my understanding was, Petito's family. So they were on their way to go meet up with hers. So he wasn't in the area, he wasn't nearby. He was, I believe, 2 hours away from here. So, but just different ways that way. So cell phones, Google timelines, electronics in general. So.
So we have one written question from Art Gleason. He asks, or she asks, I apologize. Is there any forensic / DNA evidence linking AP to the crime?
So not at this time. The problem with the crime scene was obviously there was, I think, 2 or 3 days of rain. So a lot of the initial DNA things that you might be able to find on the crime scene would have been destroyed. As far as the car goes, we had the car towed and everything else, but it had been passed through several different owners by that point. And so a lot of the elimination and things have kind of taken place there. So while there is not now, does not mean that there won't be later on. So the case at this point will be closed, but it can still be reopened if anything else comes out.
So Jordan Miller has a question, has their hand raised. Go ahead, Jordan Miller.
Yeah, I'm Jordan Miller with the Salt Lake Tribune. I was just curious, is the evidence shown today enough to conclusively close the case, or what does that look like going forward to rule what actually happened here?
So as far as if obviously he was alive, this would be a situation where we have enough to place him under arrest and we feel like we would be able to take him to trial and get a guilty conviction. So the case will be closed. Obviously, like any other case, whether we make an arrest or not, if something does come up and it needs to be further investigated, we can always do that.
Next person that has their hand raised is Pat Reeves, iPhone.
Sorry, I just got done typing my question. Yeah, I was wondering, can you say how much of Adam's actions were premeditated? And how much did he track the women down versus how much was it a random chance encounter? How much of his murder was premeditated?
I think the only person that would be able to answer that, unfortunately, committed suicide. So I don't know. There's not, as far as his phone tracking and whatnot, there's nothing to say that he was stalking them. But all 3 parties unfortunately worked on Wi-Fi phones, and so there's nothing to really be able to do CDRs and whatnot on that avenue. Obviously, Adam and Crystal worked together. Adam knew where Kylen works. Well, I guess I should say Adam knew the business that Kylen worked at, and so I know that he had been in there. So whether or not he knew the girls and was tracking them down, I don't know. I would say there's a good chance it may have just been chance meeting that he had found them.
One written question by Marlene's iPhone. Was Adam questioned by the PD prior to leaving Moab?
No, he was not. Adam was not, I don't think Adam was raised as a suspect until probably a couple weeks after. I think
It was days after he had left that he was mentioned as a suspect.
Couldn't get a hold of. Yeah. We have a raised hand by.
Oh, hold on.
hold on, I got it
Okay,
right
sorry.
here.
Hi, sorry, we're here. My name's Cynthia. I work at the Penn Independent Account. So to clarify, his significant other was a male, and you didn't find any evidence of like homophobia or anything like that in texts or in any of his evidence?
It's difficult to say because in his actions, there were like comments that he made to other people that would like indicate that he was like homophobic, but the unfortunate part is we don't know the whole dynamic of that whole thing. So, but yes, it was a male.
So the next hand raised, I apologize if I mess up your name, is Mathilde, Gabi. Hold on, you choose the next question.
Hi there, this is Nicely here. Thanks so much. I'm with Fox 13. My question is basically, what was the time from Adam committing suicide and authorities there finding his body to local investigators here reaching out and finding out that he had committed suicide by that point?
Yeah, March.
Sorry if you can't hear him. It was March, like I want to say towards the end of March, that they had found out that he had committed suicide.
So it was about 5 months since then? 5 or 6 months?
Local intelligence agencies as well as the FBI to have an open search for Adam at a certain point in time, and we could not get anybody to have a hit on him ever. The FBI looked and SIAC looked and everybody looked, but nobody could get it.
Sorry, I couldn't hear that too well. So just to confirm, you said September end was when Adam committed suicide, and it was the end of March when local authorities reached out and kind of listed Adam as a suspect and found out what had happened?
No, so Adam was listed as a suspect probably what, 1 or 2 weeks after the homicide happened.
No, he wasn't. He was a person of
Well,
interest.
yeah, sorry, person of interest. Let me correct that. So he was a person of interest in, I mean, one of many at that point.
Right.
So they were trying to track down people, trying to roll out other people at the same time. And then when Adam wasn't able to be located at that time, obviously when March rolled around, they were trying to track him down and had tracked down a location. And that's when they went out to go and make contact with him at that point.
That's what it did.
Yeah, and that's when he became more of a suspect, I guess we should say.
So it wasn't until March that anyone and any of the investigators knew that he had died by that point.
Correct.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Okay, we have time for one more question.
Nancy Corey wrote, when he bought groceries that night of murders, wasn't cameras looked at, especially since the girls said he bought groceries back. That's a given clue, right? That's a given clue right there.
There were surveillance cameras checked, but at the same time, you have to keep in mind there's multiple places to buy groceries. And we're looking for a bearded man in Moab, Utah on that given date, there's a lot of those.
So this is more of a question, sorry. Diane Edwards, is there DNA taken of this family to rule out the possibility of Adam having committed previous physical attacks or other possible murders?
Not from his family, no. We're pretty sure we had, well, yes, I think that we do. We have his DNA. So that's still being looked at.
Okay, at this time, that'll wrap up this presentation. Once again, I'd like to thank the investigators for all their hard work. Once again, my staff. Just so everybody knows, this presentation will be posted back up online, so it can be reviewed by other people. That give us probably a day or two to get it up. Anybody with any further media questions can direct them to Captain Chan Hackwell with the Sheriff's Office, and we will get them answered as quickly as possible. So I'd like to thank everybody again and have a happy new year.
Okay. So this, you guys, was streamed on the GCSO evidence presentation. So what I want to bring you here, I want to show you two things quickly. Thank you for being here with me. Sorry, I didn't talk much there because I'm just listening and watching their bullet points, right? Okay, so what I have here is a playlist, Kylen and Crystal, Moab. And you can see I've covered the case at length from a year ago already. So if all of you who are here and are wondering, because see some people are like, who's Adam? Like, okay, this is a different case, Moab double murders case. It happened around the same time as the Gabby Petito case. And today they are closing the case. And they said if there's new evidence ever that presents, that they find, then they'll reopen it and look at that. But for now, they're closing the case and they believe that Adam Pinkowitz is the guy who shot them. The creeper, the creepy man. And then people are saying in the chat, why would Crystal not recognize him then? But they did this, they explained that they work different shifts at the McDonald's. So we're going to look at the update now over here. I'm just showing you the playlist. I'll pin it in the comments afterwards for you if you want to catch up. Maybe we can even just look at the map time and everything here just to refresh ourselves. So here they say officials present investigation findings into the double murder case. So if you've never heard about this case, we've got Crystal over here on the left and Kylen over here on the right. A couple, beautiful couple, living in Moab, Utah, living the van life, totally down to earth, happy, and somebody shot them while they were camping the one night. So they say Grand County, Utah, more than a year after two women were found dead in the mountains of Grand County, officials presented their findings of a lengthy investigation, including a timeline of events and evidence in the case. They sure did bring their bullet points. They did. I like that. So they said in August of 2021. So a lot of people here are new to the channel. If you're an OG, which means original Grizzly, and you're here from the beginning, then you probably saw the coverage of this. If you didn't, don't worry. There's a whole playlist for anyone who knows nothing about this case. So in August of 2021, 38-year-old Crystal Michelle Turner, and they also say Crystal Turner-Beck because we've had her family on the show, and 24-year-old Kylen Carol Schulte were found shot to death in the South Mesa area of the LaSalle Loop Road in Grand County. Now that LaSalle Loop Road, we looked at quite a bit on the maps as well at the time. We were trying to figure out, will they ever find this killer? I mean, will they use satellite imagery? What will they do? It was a big, big mystery. Turner and Schulte were newlyweds and camping in the area when they were brutally murdered. After their murders, community members rallied to remember the two women and their impact. In May of 2022, Adam Pinkowitz, and I hope I'm saying it right. I just remember from when the name came out, I was practicing quite hard on how to say it, and people had sent me pronunciations. So Pinkowitz is apparently how you say it, was named the suspect connected to the death. So that was in May this year. So it's May until now, December, to now bring this bullet point timeline to us and explain why they believe that this was the guy. Officials said that Pinkowitz told another person the details that were only known to investigators in the case. And in the press briefing that we just saw, they said one of the details that he had told to people that no one else knew was that the woman was shot in their tent and then he moved the bodies. So That is one of the things. And that is why there's a good example of when investigators say they're keeping details close to the vest that, only the killer would know. It's something simple like that. People would say, why can't you just tell us exactly where they were shot and whatever? But in this case, you see, it helped to keep that to themselves. And then as soon as this guy spoke, he would be the only one who actually knows that. So they say he later died by taking his own life in September of 2021, about a month after the murders of the two women after leaving the state. When he was named as a suspect, officials said Pinkowitz was a former employee at the McDonald's in Moab, where Turner also worked. Further details about his relationship to Turner and Schulte were under investigation. In an announcement on Thursday, the Grand County Sheriff's Office called the homicides a tragic event in the community and thanked the community for their help and perseverance during the investigation. It was very heartbreaking, this case, to see Kylen's dad, Sean Paul Schulte. If you guys have never seen him, he's done lots of interviews as well. Oh man, he just so badly wanted to help fight for justice for his daughter and her wife. And it was just very sad. So I really hope that this will help the family get some closure. He was very happy in May when they did announce that they have a suspect, and he believed, so did the PI, Jason Jensen, which I'm sure you've seen on Court TV quite a lot. That they were very happy with that outcome, and they believe what law enforcement has told them. So if we just go here quickly, I just quickly want to see this little map time video here. Wow, it's a blast from the past right here. If you want to just see, if we go to the mountains. Map time from Bowen Motel to the Moonflower Co-op. Oh, yeah, okay. Kylen Schulte, unsolved. So, social media, map time, and more. Lots of things for you to explore there. Let's see what I got for us here. Is here. Right, okay. And then this is where the fresh Moab coffee was. And Brian said that him and Gabby were hanging out in a coffee shop from 9 till 3. And that Kylen was allegedly she only worked there until 12:30 or 2:30. I've seen different reports, but they say, nah, her shift ended before Brian and Gabby got to the store to literally buy melons. The melons are in the back of the van, for real. They had Oh, remember that. So this is kind of blast from the past as well. Damn, now that like the channel, we're a year and a bit, 18 months later since I started my channel. This just feels like a blast from the past. My goodness, takes me right back. Hippie at heart says, so he was a co-worker. Yes, but working different shifts. So that's also why they say, if he's the guy, then they say the creepy man, the creepy guy. Crystal may not have actually known him, just maybe saw him in passing. A melon special there that day. Gabby went to meet Kylen. We were all thinking it could have been Brian Laundrie. In the Gabby Petito case. So I just want to see if I can find the mountains, man. Where the hell are the mountains? Damn it, me and my own map time. Don't worry, it's all on there. I won't waste your time any longer, but it's somewhere on here. We did everything. We did map time, presentation time, everything back then from a year ago. Thank you all for being here with me to look at the updates. Here, Crystal Turner's family joined us as well. Here were all the updates and things. So yeah, I wanted to do some map time with you guys. Map time? Nope. I'm going to leave it at that. I don't want to bother you now. So I was actually busy just quickly reading this here so that you guys who joined late can see this. They say this was from May, right? Suspect named in double homicide of newlywed couple found dead near Utah campgrounds. The county sheriff's office has named a suspect in the murders of a newlywed couple who was found dead near a campsite in Moab, Utah, around the same time that Gabby Petito had gone missing. And the timing was just so odd. We were like, wow. I mean, it seemed plausible that it could have been Brian Laundrie, and yet it wasn't. And he also took his own life. Gosh. My goodness. So Grand County Sheriff's Office has identified Adam Pinkowitz as a suspect in the double homicide of Kylen Schulte and Crystal Beck Turner, read a news release issued Wednesday via Facebook. Adam Pinkowitz was a former employee at the McDonald's that Crystal worked at, located in Moab, Utah. The news release continued, noting that Pinkowitz was identified at that time as one of the many persons of interest being investigated by the GCSO, and the GCSO made numerous attempts to locate and interview him. So these are pictures of him. This is who they were talking about the whole time today in that press briefing. Through continued analysis and collection of evidence, the GCSO had learned that the suspect was in the LaSalles and Moab at the time of the murders, had left the state of Utah shortly after the homicides, and then later took his own life, the release stated. GCSO conducted numerous interviews and recently received information that prior to committing suicide, Adam Pinkowitz told another party that he had killed 2 women in Utah and provided specific details that were known only to investigators, police wrote, adding that the investigation is still ongoing and the case is not yet closed. Now, that changed today. Today, they say they're closing the case, which is the reason they had this press conference. The bodies of Turner, 38, and Schulte, 24, were found August 18th at a campsite near the Sal Mountains near Moab. The couple were last heard from on August 14th and were reported missing soon after. Both women were shot multiple times, authorities have said. Turner and Schulte embraced a nomadic lifestyle, according to Bridget Calvert, Schulte's aunt. The couple lived in their van, Calvert tells People, moving from campsite to campsite, but primarily stayed in the Moab area. Calvert says that the couple went on a camping trip on August 13th and had relayed to friends that they were having issues with a strange man. A friend of the couple went searching for them after they stopped responding to calls and text messages, finding both of their bodies at a campsite along LaSalle Loop Road. Schulte's body was partially submerged in a nearby lake. Utah-based private investigator Gisela K. Jensen began working pro bono on the case early October. Jensen told People Calvert had reached out to him looking for his help. He said solving the murders hinges entirely on finding the creepy man the nomadic couple had described in text messages to family and friends just before they stopped responding. Speaking to People, Jensen said he believed satellite imagery and increased awareness of the killings on social media would lead investigators to the killer. No, Ellen says, wait, what an update. I thought it was closed. It wasn't closed yet. That's the thing. They just named a suspect in May, and then we were all like, okay, and then what? And it's taken all this time now, but finally, at least, now they've closed the case, and they believe that they gave us all those bullet points and reasons of why they believe that Adam Pinkowitz is the guy. I just quickly want to see something here because there's so much. Just hold on one second. Sorry for the break. You like looking at my side profile here. So go check all this out so you can catch up on the case if you've never heard about it. We looked at all the details. We looked at photos of Kylen and Crystal. We could see the Whispering Oaks Ranch is where there was a wedding that very time, that weekend. And we were all wondering, did no one hear anything? Did no one hear shots? Those shots that they played today were very, very faint, huh? So yeah, this is where we do all the map time. The LaSalle Loop Road, the Whispering Oaks Ranch. Okay. Our hope is to bring attention to the word creep. Kylen and Crystal said a creepy guy came close to their camp, howling and walking into the campsite. The girls were found murdered on August 18th, so their bodies were found then. Hopes are that we bring attention to the situation so other families do not get stuck without answers. Hashtag creep could save lives or bring you answers in the future. Document creep. So that would be call, report every evil person. So yes. Just checking if my tribute is in here. Not sure it is. Anyway, okay. So put a 1 in the chat if you know about this case and a 2 if you had no idea, if this was your first time today. Yes, and Terry is reminding us that Crystal and Adam did not work the same shifts and she didn't know him. He knew her though from time she came into the store off shift. Exactly. That was explained in the presentation that they had. So if I will link it, what we just watched together in the briefing that the police gave us, which is this GCSO, the GCSO evidence presentation. I'm going to link this for you with obviously when we started the video, we were watching it, but I'll link it for you so you can go watch everything again and see all the bullet points again. But everything was explained and it actually makes sense. Okay, so 1, you know about it. 2, you didn't know about it. Very nice. Thank you all for being here. Damn, very nice. With my 1 notification left for the day. And if you didn't know about it, don't worry. I hope you'll check out the playlist then. Okay, what's happening here? Replay it. It's processing now. You know how it goes. Okay. So, I wish I could find the tribute that I made for them because I always, I do my best to always make tributes, and I did make one. It's somewhere down the playlist, but I don't want to like scramble around now and waste your time. I just appreciate you being here. Marty says, I believe Brian Laundrie and this guy talked with Brian at the same day. Cops put Gabby Petito in a motel. Well, Gabby stayed in a van. Brian went to the motel. Brian went back to the campgrounds. Guy was near. I mean, it was all in such close proximity. Very, very interesting. Yeah. Emma Simmons, I'm sorry about that. I'm glad that you are here now. And I do also wonder if they aren't. She said she saw a blue car passing her when she went to go and look for them and she discovered their bodies. I wonder if the car wasn't blue that they showed now. It looked more like a black car, right? The Yaris. But I wonder if that's the dark car she saw. Yes, Karen says, I heard about these poor women when Gabby Petito went missing. Mm-hmm. Okay. Van the Chimp. Me too. I put a 1, then I have to remind myself. What did I just say? Thank you so much, Erin. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Michelle. You can find everything on my website, grizzlytruecrime.com. Okay, so thank you all for being here today, where we were looking at all this information. I mean, how long have we been here now? We've been here over an hour, so I don't want to keep you too long. I wanted to see if I can go forward and look at these bullet points they got for us here. Because I was watching it with you guys. There you go. Okay, August 14th, 12:30. Kylen and Crystal leave the friend's house and head to the campground. And they were at a bar that night where Brian and Gabby also were, which is why it was just so bizarre. Like, how connected could these cases be? At 1:15-ish estimated time, the Kylen and Crystal would have returned to the campground. Drive time, 11:48, broad daylight. That was huge news when we found that out. Like 11:48 a.m., shots and screams heard on surveillance. Wow. August 15th, Crystal doesn't show up to work, but it's assumed it's because she wanted Sundays off. Co-worker reached out on Facebook, assuming Crystal slept in, but she doesn't respond. So I'm just quickly going over some of it just to see. I'll go quick, right? Did we miss anything? So August 16th, Crystal doesn't show up to work for a 2nd day in a row. Kylen doesn't show up to work. More messages sent to Facebook, but the girls don't respond. A co-worker speaks to management at McDonald's and has decided to report it to police. That's when they were reported missing. At 14:03, Moab PD takes the report for the 2 missing persons. Moab PD were very busy during those days. My goodness, remember the stop with Gabby and Brian on August 13th. Bullets recovered. So they're showing us everything. So go check it out yourself as well. They did numerous interviews. 44 search warrants were written. My goodness. And then, I think they show us this Adam Pinkowitz. Look at the possible theories, okay? Family conflicts. So this is the process of elimination that John Kelly was talking about yesterday as well. That is what they talked about here. In this case, they said they looked at family conflicts, a prior stalker, financial conflicts, drugs, Brian Laundrie. I don't know why they put Brian Laundrie because it's Brian Laundrie. Hunters on the mountain, an argument with a threatening coworker, and the creepy camper. And they were able to eliminate all of these theories except for the last 2. Argument with threatening coworker and creepy camper. And that is what Adam Pinkowitz seems to match. Here's the vehicle leaving the area, which is why I'm saying I wonder if the girl's aunt, what was her name again? Sorry, I have to go and refresh my memory on that. But she found their bodies so sadly, on my word. She was like, I'm going to go look myself because the police went to look for them and didn't find them. And she's like, I'm going to go and look. Cindy Sue Hunter, is that correct? Just came to me. It's there in the file somewhere, from a year ago. So she saw like a bluish vehicle leaving the area, and I'm wondering, damn, yeah, they say, but this is a different day, but vehicle leaving the area, 12:54 p.m., a Toyota Yaris is seen leaving the area, vehicle not consistent with other vehicles being driven in the same area. Wow. And here is where, oh, it's not quite here, it's like the next slide, where they talk about, well, Adam's, Pinkowitz's attitude at work, and then not really, that Crystal didn't really know him because they worked different shifts, even though he might have seen her and they may have crossed paths. Right, Stefan? Cindy Sue Hunter. I like it when my brain does that, okay? When it's just like, I know the answer. I'm like, brain, what is it? Scratch through those files, okay. So August 8th, 2021, Adam became irate at the McDonald's night manager because they were telling him he needed to go faster. And he wrote that in his suicide note, that one of the reasons he was doing this was because the manager had let him go or fired him because they needed him to work faster. What? He got into his manager's face and started making comments and making derogatory comments towards the manager about their sexuality. He was pacing around and punching his fist to his hand. I mean, hypocrite of all hypocrites. He seems to be in a relationship with a man, but here he is like making comments on same-sex relationships, it seems. So internalized homophobia. Adam was pacing around and punching his fist to his hand. Other co-workers reported that he had said that he should take her outside and kick her ass. The night manager left the store because they felt like Adam would do something to them. He came in to deal with the situation, and Adam was just threatening towards that manager, pushing towards them, and would not move away from them at the table. Adam had to be told to clock out and leave because he would not calm down. So major anger problems, huh? Yesterday, John Kelly also talked about impulsive rage and intermittent explosive disorder and things like that. So it sounds like something like that. And he does say, Adam, in his notes there, that he had impulses and urges to essay and kill. So here we go. They say on August 7th or 8th, 2021, Adam had seen Crystal walk behind the counter to make her and Kylen sandwiches. Crystal was not in uniform and was calling out to Kylen, calling her baby. Adam was upset that Crystal was back behind the counter and asked another employee if she can do that. The employee said it was apparent that he was more upset that Crystal was making sandwiches for her girlfriend rather than just making food. No one can confirm Adam ever confronted Crystal, and it's not believed that there was an argument between the two of them. Crystal and Adam did not work the same shifts, and Crystal may not have known who Adam was. Masks were worn during work shifts due to the pandemic. So imagine masks being worn and then you're working different shifts, which makes sense then that Crystal didn't know him. So when they saw him out there at the campsite, if this was him, which they believe it was, therefore it would be like, oh, damn, here he is, probably full face at the campsite and the creepy man. And as we saw later, he creeped out a bunch of other people too at other campsites. Okay, I won't go over all of it again because you can just rewatch the replay and see them go through it as we were looking at it. But yes, someone was pointing out at this point, this is the change in the system that, again, criminal profiler John Kelly, he teaches us all these things, you know. He was here yesterday. If you missed the highlights video from yesterday or the live stream, go check it out. But they say, here's a change, right? Adam wasn't on speaking terms with most of his family. He assisted with hotels off and on and assisted the last 2 weeks prior to taking his life. They thought that Adam was actually doing well and was happy in Waterloo. And then family received a strange email from Adam about a month prior to him taking his own life. That email was sent on August 13th, 2021 at 1:50 p.m. Wow. Okay, so a lot of you're still lost. This is Adam. These are the victims. Their murders were unsolved until May this year, where they said they announced a suspect. The suspect's name is Adam Pinkowitz, this guy right here. We were all like, are we sure? Are you sure this is the guy? And that's what the point of today's press conference was to say, these are the reasons we believe this is the guy. And they gave us all the bullet points. Yes. Grinning Owl says, why would Adam move the bodies? It makes no sense to me. Well, he put them in nature, I would say. That's what I wanted to word it, in water, in the elements, which would if left, of course, undiscovered. They were discovered on August 18th. It would help the process of decomposition, which would help destroy DNA so that he can't get caught, something like that, maybe. But we also don't know. He doesn't sound like he's at all in the right state of mind. Of course, he wasn't. That's the thing. Read the letter, I remember that. He didn't just move them, he displayed them half-dressed. He did that as well. Yes. So it's utter discard and humiliation. So this entire update today was about this dude. They gave us all the bullet points. I hope you'll check out my playlist and get all caught up on the case. Here it is right here. I'm going to pin it for you afterwards. Kylen and Crystal, Moab. You can see some of my older videos. Yeah, things have improved a lot, I would say, since then, even though it wasn't too bad. But go check out some of these videos. And if you were there with me, Grizzlies, nostalgic times. I think I'm going to go check some of it out too and be like, what was going on there? Okay. Thank you so much for being here today. I know this was my second live stream of the day. Thank you, mods. I know it was very last minute. Thank you to the person, you know who you are, who told me, hey, there's a press conference happening now. I was like, what? For this case after all this time? Like, yes. So I'm so glad that I could have that experience here with you guys and learn the news as it was breaking, because it's been a long time waiting for closure in this case. And as always, sending the families condolences, healing, closure. I mean, it's still terrible, but I hope that they feel better, that there's some answers. Okay, Grizzlies, thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Make sure you are subscribed, hit the bell, and if you don't want to miss a notification, because now I've run out of notifications, YouTubers get 3 every 24 hours. Patreon, you're going to get notifications over there. That's a good backup. It's $1. All right. Okay. Bye, everyone.